Hello everyone. The following frames from my analysis about this event in Hessdalen Valley on Christmas Eve 2025 I would like to comment in person. Here we zoom into the distance and look at some other lights in the video. As you can see, the housing windows are typically square. I'm talking about the top two on the left. While the lamps are round and sparkly, there's probably one lamp to the right of the two windows and two lamps on the right side of the frame in the distance. So this is consistent over all frames, and it is not a by chance sensor error. It suggests that we can also rely on the observed shapes of the object, and that there is no ice crystals or water droplets in the atmosphere, which would lead to reflections and refractions, in other words, diversion of light. Car headlights in the video are quite different. While also round, they are much brighter, and their brightness fluctuates as expected through changes in orientation. The headlight of a car behind trees is nicely round and has a uniform white glow. Most homes use warm white bulbs, while modern LED or xenon car headlights are usually cool with more blue wavelengths. Here we look at different frames of the same object. Of course, the object is most of the time in motion. We have to remember that. The object has a red glow, it is not round, and it seems to change its shape, luminosity, and brightness while fading with distance. The frames were extracted while the object seemed to be above the treetops, except for the top left one and the bottom three to the right, which are obviously too small and too far away to tell. We do a bit of color correction here. The typical blue color cast from the night sky and the night light is neutralized, enhancing the red glow, the seemingly red glow of the object. In the first frame, top left, the object is just emerging from the trees. This frame sequence shows the appearance of the object. We can see that it does not just pop up over the trees, above the trees, but rises from within the forest. There are three very faint dots forming sort of a reddish triangle to the right of the tree, and we can assume this is light shining through the branches as the object is rising. This would suggest that the object is lighting up a clearance in the forest while ascending. The dots disappear as the object clears the trees. Again, we neutralize the blue complexion until the large tree almost shows its natural color. The bottom right frame again shows the emerging red object, most likely behind a tree. So in this collage, we compare the windows and the lamps from the video to the object. Again, with the color blue slightly neutralized. The same collage with red enhanced. The windows and lamps do not shift much to red, but the object does. This suggests that the object could be some sort of plasma or chemical physical reaction, also supported by the irregular shapes and changing luminosity and brightness. Yeah, so this is a bit of a fun histogram editing experiment. The colors don't mean anything, but it suggests an irregular fluctuating light emission of the object as opposed to the steady light sources at the top, the mundane light sources. We do some edge enhancement and blending out of background noise in order to compare shapes. It shows that the object is of different nature than the mundane light sources in the video. Of course, we can't forget that the object is in motion, so that could explain some of the twinkling as opposed to the fixed position of the other light sources. We have very high solar activity at the end of December 2025, as we can see in this chart marked by the yellow dot, which some researchers associate with frequent UAP sightings worldwide. Recent scientific papers, notably from 2024 and 25, have proposed that many UAP sightings, particularly those described as glowing orbs, or also known phrase Foo Fighters, may actually be plasmoids, electrically charged clusters of plasma in the thermosphere. I cannot attest to that or comment on that, because I believe we would see more events like this in Hessdalen if there was a true correlation. So in the coming two frames, the red glow of the object leading to the impression of combustion or burning can have several alternative explanations. So if the object is a plasma type phenomenon, then an ionization of the surrounding air can lead to a red or purplish glow. This could also explain the reddish tail following the object at times. It could be a digital effect called automatic white balance, where the camera sees a lot of green, which would come from the pine trees around the object or in the frame, and shifts it to a complementary color, red or magenta, which spills into the white pixels. The object thus gets drowned in the camera's attempt to neutralize the green forest, turning it sort of reddish. This, however, is contradicted by the car headlight behind the trees, which does not show this red complexion. Could also be a lens effect called lateral chromatic aberration, sometimes called red ghosting, where the prism of the camera lens scatters red more than blue and green, which leads to a misplacement of red. Many image editing software programs try to correct this. We also see dark donuts around the object, like a black frame. This may be a form of digital sharpening or an error in the HDR brightness normalization. So I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with the object itself. So, my conclusion as follows. There's a possible mundane explanation at the top of the Hessdalen report, which is titled Ascending Light, and this speaks of possibly of a drone. However, after my analysis, I would sort of rule out a drone, or I would almost firmly rule out a drone. The object is a little big for that, and it would have to have a very bright 360-degree light source, or a burning payload. We do not see the light beam disappearing at times, so it's probably not rotating, but it's also not pointed in any direction. Maybe this light source diminished or burnt out after a few minutes and the craft returned to its operator. But a drone or model airplane would be a potentially expensive undertaking, because the chances of losing it under the existing light conditions are quite high. And there is surely no visual between operator and craft. At times, the object also passes very close to treetops and seems to descend back into the forest, especially in the last minute of its last half minute actually of its visible flight. So the top speed of commercially available drones lies at around 80 kilometers per hour. High-speed drones can go up to 113 kilometers, but our measured object flies at an average of 90 kilometers, according to the Google simulation, which is about 56 miles per hour. That's a fast car. A deliberate hoax is always hard to rule out. However, there are no cars, scooters, bicycles, flashlights, or humans near the event. And the object seems to land quite a distance uphill from the starting point. So if somebody was performing a hoax, he would have probably chosen a later and darker time of day. And he would have had a very hard time finding and retrieving the object after it flew 2 kilometers uphill. And he would probably have to retrieve it by foot because we do not see a snowmobile or even a flashlight after that. The date of the 25th December could hint at somebody celebrating Christmas in a special way or testing a new type of fireworks for New Year's Eve. One may also conclude, especially given the date, that the object could be a balloon or a Chinese lantern carried up the mountain by the wind. However, the flight path is too irregular and the object stops at one point, descends, and then, in my opinion, speeds up too fast. And in none of the frames I could really detect a relevant wind. In any case, the average speed of 90 kilometers per hour, that is, again, 56 miles per hour, does not fit the theory of a balloon or Chinese lantern at all. If you want to learn more about UFOs, UAPs, and plasma phenomena, I encourage you to read the Amazon bestseller The Dyatlov Pass Mystery, Not a Cold Case, which is a scientific book about the famous mountaineering mystery in which 9 hikers, students from the Polytech University in Yekaterinburg, died a mysterious and horrible death on a hiking expedition in the Ural Mountains. There are many references to Hessdalen in this book, which is co-authored by well-known writer Keith McCloskey and SETI researcher Dr. Massimo Teodorani. So SETI means Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I thank you very much for listening to my analysis, and I hope you leave some comments. I am open to discussion. I am not inclined to say this is a UFO or a UAP or a plasma object, but it certainly is not something that I have come across. And maybe somebody else, maybe I made some mistakes and somebody else can tell me what this is. Please leave your comments and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.